a lot of people who look at the team around them or the person who's their manager at work, and they're like, I don't see these qualities in this person. And, that may or may not be a bit of an eye of the beholder sense of
Mm-hmm.
things. But I
Mm-hmm.
share this, and to your earlier point about the age of information dispersion, and the point is, I share that if we all can agree that we are the result or the kind of average of the five people we surround ourselves with, why would
Definitely.
you not take the initiative to surround yourselves with people who do offer those qualities via the internet? Like the people who are putting out the
Yes.
podcasts, who are writing
Mm-hmm.
the articles, who are posting on Instagram about things that make you feel like, like I'm kind of like I'm putting these stakes underneath myself, like that's elevating me as a person. I'm gonna like my
Yes.
shoulders are gonna go back a little bit, and I'm gonna put my chin up
Mm-hmm.
a little bit, and I'm gonna kind of like I'm gonna sharpen my knife this weekend. Like I'm
Yeah.
all these little kind of little things add up, and I think people will often fall into the excuse of, oh, well, I don't have a good manager, so I can't grow
Mm-hmm.
because of my manager. Like more extreme ownership stuff, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
take the
Mm-hmm.
ownership of, and I'm a
Yeah.
huge Jocko fan as well.
Nice.
The point that kind of coincides with the question that I had for you in relation to a word that you not only said in that answer, but it's listed on your website is invest. And can you share why you enjoy the word invest and why you champion investing?
Ah, man, you were a good you were a good student of Tim's. You were a good question asker, sir. This question is a very good one because it's actually a non-financial answer to start out with. Contrary to the most common use of the word invest, people think instantly financial. It's a financial word, basically, to most people, but we make investments of all different kinds at all time. And the most easy one to kind of overlook is what are we doing with our time? And it's so hard, to actually quantify what that looks like in reality, but it seems that way until you do it. So what I did was I was working 6 jobs in kind of a peak transitionary point of my exodus from culinary. I wasn't fully stable yet, and I was doing I was starting to teach at a title boxing. I was working at the front desk of a gym while I was taking my personal training certification. I was working for a badass company called On It, Joe Rogan's company. I was
Tight.
actually a brand ambassador for them for a while.
Really?
Badass company. Yeah, it was cool. That's another story for another time. But yeah, and so that's 3. And I was also, yeah, working with the event company, both interior to the company on business operations, and then as a field operator, and I was teaching cooking classes. So I had 6
Wow.
jobs, but I wasn't making that much money. I
Right.
wasn't really like even making enough money. And when I started to date my girlfriend back then, or like we started to talk to each other, I was like, this isn't working. Like, I don't have time for you. I'm not making enough money, and I'm working 7 days a week. So what can I do, or what can I eliminate? It was some of the Tim process, right? I was like, what can I get rid of here that's not serving me? So I didn't know how to do that really. So I broke out the entire 168 hours in a week in a spreadsheet grid manually, with paper and pen, and just did what I could to fill in the hours of what I thought I would be doing at those times, or what I knew I would be doing. And as busy as I was with that, I still had about 20 to 30 unaccounted for hours where I was like, wait, where is this? And that I literally don't know where it is. And I'm trying to answer that question. And I'm not making enough money. So it's like something's wrong here. So I kind of deconstructed everything, and I was like, okay, what can go here? What can I leave behind? And it was tough because I was enjoying everything. I was in like some low income but high growth environments. I was in some good income but like not that good growth environments, and I had a decent mix. But I was like, it's not sustainable. So I made my choice, and by doing that, I actually ended up saying to the one employer that I couldn't work for them anymore, and they were like, "Actually, we can't afford to lose you, so you can do whatever you want. Set your salary, set your hours, set your what you're gonna do. Will you manage our business?" I was like, "Whoa!" I was like, I was trying to get out of here, but okay, let's
Sure.
see how that goes. So that was a cool one, but after that process, I just really started to realized that I wasn't conscious of what I was doing at all times. And when I frame that in an investment standpoint, and we'll get to like how this loops together with real investing in a second, because it does, it's another thing some lessons you just have to physically have that light bulb moment for you. And some people need to do the same lesson like 10 times. Some people need it once. So I needed to kind of take that lesson deeper. I'd done it, but like when I knew I was going to become a father and when that moment was real, I was no longer at luxury of any type of illusions anymore. So I was really kind of at this moment of like, truth be told, at the time I was not financially able or secure or anything. Like I was not, I shouldn't be having a kid kind of thing. But I was like, I have to figure this out. I was like, my issue is that I've never applied myself, just like I never applied myself to saying, what am I doing with my time? And like really sat down and did it. Never applied myself to money. I was never in the industry thinking about like, it was nice to make a couple more bucks an hour or to get on salary or to like whatever. It was nice to like have those things, but I was so unconscious the whole time of what I was doing long term. I wasn't doing anything. Wasn't doing anything long term with my money. Um, wasn't doing anything conscious that was going to benefit me or my future or get me to where I thought I envisioned going either. So it was all broken. And when I realized that and I was like, okay, I'm going to be a dad, I am now responsible in a real way. And that's something that you have to learn about yourself. I'm a real stakes kind of guy. Like if it's not real, I have the trouble to summon the actual ability to perform at my best. But when it's real, I can show up. And I started to listen to, I think it was even 2017 when I had actually bought some crypto listening to Tim and Naval. And
Naval, yeah,
yeah, that was a really good episode, by the way. Anybody looking
hugely
to
good.
get into that space, it's transformative. So I got just a little bit. I just held on to like what a couple $100 was at the time. Now in 2021, that was a good choice to just hold on to that stuff, even when it crashed back then. But that was part of the journey. Once I started to become a father, I was like, okay, I need to really do something with my money. And this is honestly, if you're having money trouble, this is my hugest thing that changed my life. Don't keep it in one pile. Get 4 bank accounts. There's all these different bank accounts you can get on your phone now. Get multiple bank accounts and use them for different purposes. Have your main one your paycheck goes into, and then transfer to a bank account where you can invest from. Transfer to a bank account where you don't touch it. That's just another cash account for travel or for upgrading your knife kit or camera gear or whatever. If it's in one pile and it's one number and you can physically keep, what rich people can't do? Count their money. They can't physically count it all. They're not like aware at all times, most of them, who are truly rich in the sense of not controlled by their money. They're not checking their balances 24/7 and being like, wow, like I'm watching it go down and I have no way of getting this to go back up. So that's one thing. The other thing is once I started to think of investing my money, I just doing it small, the dollar cost averaging method. It's very steady and safe. There's some safe investing you can do. And I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. I know you got to say that on podcasts.
Thank you for the disclaimer.
Yeah. But I mean, it's pretty common sense that dollar cost averaging in an index fund or ETF that matches to the S&P 500 is a super stable way long term to generate a return you can't get in a savings account. I don't even think there's anything wrong with saying that. Even the SEC, come at me.
Sure.
No, but for real. Anyways, so I started to just do some things. I took some more riskier investments. I did a bunch of stuff, but I was no longer keeping my money in one pile. I was like, I'm gonna do stuff with money. And once I started to do that, and I started to experience the benefits of a crazy time in the market where there's a lot of upside and a lot of growth, which all markets have cycles. So we're due for a downturn. Just it always happens. But when you start experiencing percentages of your time or percentages of your money compounding to your benefit, you just can't learn that without experiencing it. I couldn't until it was happening for me, and I was like, wait, I just made money. How much did I make by not doing anything? It was like I just made a decision 3 months ago that made me hundreds of dollars or whatever. It's like, so that was a bit eye opener. And then with the time too, like Tim Ferriss talks about the time freedom, like you got to balance those things, and there's points in your career where it's probably best to recalibrate what you're investing in, because you may be an expert in the kitchen, but maybe it's time to invest in leadership knowledge. Maybe it's time to invest in your health, and there's nothing wrong with taking back on the throttle. Like it's a common, especially in our industry, I feel like you got to be a little bit, even if you're a girl on the line or anything, you got to be a little bit macho. You got to be tough. Like it's a tough line of work, and we pride ourselves on that. But it's also, you're only as tough as your weaknesses, So if you're getting some weaknesses, you're getting flanked, right? You're not seeing that my pelvic tilt is ultimately aligning to hurt my knee, or whatever. Like it's these things that they creep up on us. That's investing. Investing is stuff that happens that it's best to take a conscious direction of, because your time and your money, they're flowing at all times. So to me, investing is funneling the flow and then learning about how percentages work. It just, like, the percentages of your time too. It's like if you spend an exorbitant amount of your time unconscious of what you're doing with it, then there can't really be that much growth involved, really, until you start to say, okay, I want to choose what to do with my time. It's a big responsibility, right? I know that if you've experienced some more time freedom in your life, it's not always productive. It's always like, okay, well, now I'm my own boss. Now I got to like tell myself to really get on my schedule and like do these things. And that's a huge thing I respect about you, because you've taken a disciplined content schedule and stuck to it. And am I assuming, or is that a big part of why you're able to stay consistent?
Yes and no. I mean, like, people for like, I joke that the old intro of the podcast said new episodes every Thursday, and in my brain it almost turned into like a meme for an extended period of time. And like part of that was like I gave myself a lot of grace in 2020. I think everybody should have, just because of like I was in survival mode with my business. Like we were like really having to go down to a skeleton crew, and like what are events going to be like in the next 12-24 months.
Yes.
So, but absolutely, from the sense of like the EMyth Revisited talks about like the entrepreneur, the manager, and the employee. And when you start off on your own, whether it's being a content creator or starting pop-ups or being a private chef, like you have to swap those hats, because the employee doesn't want to plan the next 2 weeks. They don't want to do the taxes. They don't want to do any of that. That's why they're an employee. But then like, the manager has to, come up with the systems and the structure and all that stuff. And then the entrepreneur is the one that's thinking like big picture, all that kind of stuff. I really, really highly recommend that book for, but to speak a little bit about investing as a word, I think that there's this inherent sense of long-term, like future thinking when people think of investing. And I think all of us would agree, like, what's the opposite of investing? It's like being a day trader. Like how many people that are listening are day trading their time right now? Like Absolutely. You're just kind of like, it's this very transactional, like, I'll just go ahead and do this, and it's not to say
return immediately though,
totally,
right? It's that total like you get that collab request, and it's like, and honestly, I have to learn this lesson from a personal side. I was this guy at some point. It's okay if you're this guy, if you're this guy and you're hearing, stop. Like I am unconscious of the fact that I'm making this so highly transactional in the moment that it is throwing off the more professional, savvy individual in the room off, and they're not wanting to work with me, because I'm. And it's a thin line between really wanting to do something and coming across as too desperate. It's just like dating, right? Or it's just like, so it's kind of those things, those nuances where I don't think that it's so black and white for everybody to be like, oh, is this a schedule for me because somebody else's schedule is like that or whatever? You kind of, like you said, when you swap the hats, you have to deal with the parts of yourself that aren't as functional. Maybe you're not the best manager, or maybe you're not the best this or this or this. Ultimately, maybe you can bring people onto your team that can help with those roles. But as he's talking about, as like he's starting to expand his team, prior to that, it was him, 100%, And
totally.
Those growing pains.
Yeah, growing pains. The other interesting point in line, have you seen the chart that James Clear put out? Author of Atomic Habits, for everybody that doesn't know, and it looks like a math equation, and I'll try to link this in the show notes so people can get this visual. But it's 1 to the power of 365, and then it's 1.01 to the 365th power, from the sense of if you stay the same, 365. Yeah, so you get 1% better every day for 360. Do you know what that number is? At 37. So 37. Wow. And our heads can't wrap our mind around that. So if you get 1% better every day for a year, everybody can look this up.
37% better?
37 times.
Oh,
37 times. Oh, so 1.01 turns into 37 when compounded 1% every day for 365 days.
Wow.
understanding that not
That is the math of investing, and it's hard. It's some people, even with the visual, even with everything, they may not grasp it until it's their money doing it, or until they dehinge themselves from their schedule in a way where they can look at their time. Because I know I had heard that type of math probably in the past. Maybe didn't absorb it too well, obviously, but the lesson didn't sink in until it was personal for me. You know.